South Carolina is in the spotlight as the state gets bombarded by both political parties ahead of the Republican and Democratic primary. There's a lot at stake for the candidates, including Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, who will be vying for the African-American vote there. The two candidates are squaring off tonight at a debate in Milwaukee. CBS News correspondent DeMarco Morgan and Elections Director Anthony Salvanto are at the decision desk to break it all down.
Adeline, we're standing here at the decision desk here along with our elections director, Anthony Salvanto. And if we've got a lot to talk about, all eyes will be on the big debate tonight in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, as Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton sort of go head to head for a big reason. What's at stake in South Carolina?
Well, this is supposed to be Hillary Clinton's firewall, right? Big win in New Hampshire for Bernie Sanders, right? Now, he decisively won there, but South Carolina is a very different electorate, and the Clinton campaign will not be shy about reminding people of that. Let me show you why. First of all, over half of the Democratic primary voters in this South Carolina race will likely be African American, and the Clintons have a long history of winning their votes. Right now, even in our most recent Battleground Tracker poll back in January, we saw that among African American voters, Clinton with a big 76 to 22 point lead over Bernie Sanders. That will keep her up statewide if she can hold on. But that's a big if.
Yeah, Sanders is not backing down. I don't think he's already met with Al Sharpton. He's been endorsed by Harry Belafonte. But when you look at the Congressional Black Caucus, that was a big get for Hillary Clinton today after they endorsed her.
Right. And one of the things that's going to come down to is we ask this polling question, which candidate understands you? Now, when you can identify with the candidate, obviously you have more chance of earning their vote. And on that score, we saw still Bernie Sanders with a high hill to climb. He is at 67% of the African American voters in South Carolina who say they feel like he understands them, but a whopping 82% say that Hillary Clinton does. So he's got a little bit of a gap. The good news for him, though, is that this is still over half. So he's got a little bit of an inroads there. What we want to see is whether or not that momentum coming out of New Hampshire, oh, okay, now they try to get to know Bernie Sanders, now they start paying attention to him. Does that allow him to make some inroads?
And it will be interesting to just pay attention to the debate tonight to see how many times they talk about the issues that are facing the African-American community there. We got a chance to speak with some voters on the ground. Let's listen in.
I really don't know too much about Bernie Sanders, and but I know Hillary follows the same policies as Barack Obama. So, I mean, when they got that same thing in accord, I generally find that same thing as being attracted to the same president so they can follow up the same policies. So it's not too much changes, you know, with that aspect as far as her being behind Obama. So, like, they got good intentions for the government, and they got good intentions for the people.
I think Bernie, who's also been a supporter of the community, the African Americans before, in the past. He has a history of it. I just feel more confident with him.
All right, let's go and talk about the GOP, a big debate sponsored by CBS News coming up this Saturday. And, of course, a lot is at stake on this side as well.
Yeah, Donald Trump, of course, coming off the big win in New Hampshire, but he has also been up in South Carolina in our polling. Now, does New Hampshire shift that momentum? Does Ted Cruz carry his momentum out of Iowa and down into South Carolina? Those are the big questions we're watching. Now, let me show you where Donald Trump has been in our polling coming into this. He's had almost a doubling up on Ted Cruz. This was back in late January, though. Then Ted Cruz wins Iowa. He gets media attention. He gets the attention especially of those evangelical voters. And this is where it really gets down to it in South Carolina. Let me show you the difference between South Carolina and New Hampshire. New Hampshire, evangelical voters just 25%. But down in South Carolina, this looks a lot more like Iowa. It's 65%. These are Cruz people. That means he's probably going to be able to give Trump a run for his money. Okay? Very conservative voters, higher in South Carolina than they were in New Hampshire. These are also the folks. They're angry at the way things work in Washington. Ted Cruz running as an outsider. These are the folks Cruz is going to try to score points with. But Trump has held his own with them as well.
So what about the younger voters, the college students?
Yeah, not as many in South Carolina. That electorate tends to be a little bit older. And the other thing is the college grads, a little bit higher in New Hampshire, but I want to show you this one. The independents, much lower in South Carolina than famously independent New Hampshire. Now, this was a big help for Donald Trump up there. You get down to 25% independent, and what that means you're left with is a conservative, often older electorate. It means that also could help. It could help a Cruz, it could help a Bush. If he wants to try and make some inroads, get back in the game a little bit, certainly a Rubio will be competing in that space as well. This campaign is about to get much more conservative themed because of that.
And very interesting because Trump has been basically going after Bush, Jeb Bush, instead of talking about Cruz, as if he doesn't see Cruz as a threat in South Carolina.
Now, as this field gets narrower and narrower, the key question becomes, who would you consider voting for? Not just who you're voting for, because how can you grow? You're going to need to get a higher percentage than you've been when it gets down to a 3 or 4 candidate choice, right? So we've been asking this question in South Carolina. Who would you consider voting for? And Cruz has had the edge there with 60%. Yeah, and Donald Trump was at 48 the last time we polled. So his idea now in this debate is try to expand that base. He knows his supporters are solid. They haven't moved. They've been with him all fall, and they stayed with him in New Hampshire. But he's going to have to grow that, maybe another 5 or 10%, I think, in order to sort of keep going in these races.
All right, we'll get a chance to speak with some other voters as well on the ground. Let's go and listen to what they have to say.
I really don't want Trump to win. I really don't believe him. I don't trust him. I think he's a liar. I think just the way he carries himself, and when he claims to be a Christian and you can only quote one verse out of the Bible, I mean, come on.
Who are you planning to vote for in the primary?
I'm actually voting for Cruz right now.
You know, Mr. Trump is doing very well in the polls, and I have been to Mr. Trump's when he was out here before, and there was a big crowd, and he's got a lot to say, and you know, you're not going to stop him. He's going to say it, so we're going to listen to him and see what he has to say. But I'm a Jeb person.
All right, Elaine, we'll send things back to you.